everyone and welcome back to Jo's Healthy Cupboard. Hope you're all having a great week. And if you're wondering where baby Ivy Rose is, she's sleeping through the house with her dad. So, well, he's not sleeping, he's doing some work too. Today I really wanted to focus on a video I had actually thought about long and hard before the baby was born, and I had planned to record this prior to her coming, but I'm so glad I waited. So I wanted to record a video on preparing for a positive Caesarean section. That was something that we had to decide about. It was something that we thought long and hard about, and there were lots of different contributing factors to the decision that I made that I wanted to have a planned Caesarean section. Whatever I say in this video, you know, some people might take this one way and some people might take it the other, and I'm not suggesting by any means that a Caesarean section is the best form of birth. Every single birth is, in my opinion, valuable, worthy, amazing. But for me, I knew that I wanted to make sure that this time around was different to my first experience, where I had 30 odd hours of labour, then every intervention known to man, and then finally an emergency Caesarean section when I was 10 centimetres dilated. So this time round we elected for a section, and I think that was the hardest decision probably to make, because this baby was actually in the right position. There wasn't really a reason why we had to have one, it was our choice. You know, I don't really feel like I have to justify my choice in any way, but it was based around the fact that I knew that my anxiety levels were extremely high. I didn't want to have to go through the kind of trauma of having an emergency Caesarean section at the end of a very long labour, and I really just didn't necessarily have the belief in my body that it would do the job. I also have like a heart-shaped uterus, which I have been told on a few occasions might have been part of the reason why I didn't deliver naturally the first time. But anyway, regardless of all of that, that's what we decided, and we were happy with that decision. As with any birth, I guess you can't plan what's going to happen, and we went into labour a week before the planned Caesarean section date. So I did still have about 4 hours of labour, and I got to probably 4 centimetres dilated before I had the section. The first thing I think I wanted to sort of talk a bit about is that in order to have a positive birth, and I am going to focus on Caesarean section because that is what I want to talk about, that is my experience, and that is what I felt was lacking when I was looking for information, and I want to have this video for other people who either maybe have to be faced with a decision as to whether they have a natural birth, which in my kind of experience is what people term as a vaginal delivery, or whether they have a Caesarean section. So this is what this video is for. It's about sharing my experience and trying to create a more positive mindset, or helping people to have a more positive mindset going into that, because I was so anxious myself. I think the key thing is to always remember that every birth, in my opinion, is a positive experience when there is a healthy mum and a healthy baby. That is the most important point in my opinion, and I think you always have to bear that in mind. I did often feel like I should feel like shamed, or I should feel like less of a woman, because I think very often that society, everyone I came across in my first experience with my son, seemed to indicate that natural vaginal delivery was, you know, the option that everyone should go for. Which, yes, that's fine, that's absolutely fine, and maybe in many circumstances that's correct, but for some people it's just either not an option, or mentally they cannot cope with that thought or process for whatever reason. Everyone's got their entitled to their own choice. First time round I had every intention of having a vaginal delivery. I did hypnobirthing, I did positive affirmations, I did everything possible to try and have that positive experience, and I 100% believed that I would. As it turned out, that wasn't the case. It didn't happen that way, and it was out of my control. At the end, I felt happy, I felt delighted that my baby was healthy, that I was healthy, well, not so healthy, but you know, yeah, it took me a lot longer to recover. Whatever birth you have is going to be positive if you are healthy and alive and your baby is healthy and alive. The second thing is, you really have to decide and be firm if it's a decision you have to make. Like me, where I could have gone naturally or I could have had I'm going to use the word vaginal delivery because naturally to me it doesn't really, what is a natural delivery? I'm not 100% sure, I'm convinced of what that is. The decision I had to make was I going to attempt to have a vaginal delivery or VBAC, vaginal after Caesarian section, or was I going to have a planned section? I did not make this decision until probably 36 weeks. You know, you have to decide for the medical profession to make a plan, but in your mind, if you're still a tiny bit unsure and you did go into labour early, then you could attempt to have a vaginal delivery. But anyway, we decided, myself and my husband, and when I went into labour, I knew immediately this was the decision that I was sticking with. We went straight to the hospital when I went into labour, and I said, I want my section, this is what I planned and this is what I still want. And I feel like that I had to be strong at that point to make sure that happened, because I wasn't necessarily like a top priority because it wasn't an emergency. When you get to that point, you have to have a decision in your mind that you're going to go for it, because if you're like me and it's not an emergency, your baby's not breech or anything like that, you're going to have to be strong and say, I still want my section and I really want it to happen as soon as possible. Speak to people, ask people who have had both deliveries or who maybe have had one of each. I spoke to a friend who is just an incredible woman, very positive, and had a difficult experience first time and then had a positive vaginal delivery second time, and her enthusiasm and positivity really helped me to decide what was best for me. Even though I wasn't deciding to have the same delivery as her, I felt empowered by her power. Number 3 is, yes, ask questions, ask for what you want. So if you're having a Caesarean section, you can ask for your husband to cut the cord, you can ask for your own music, you can create your own playlist, you can ask for all sorts of different things. Just know what you can ask for. I wasn't so worried about all these specific details. I wasn't bothered about my husband necessarily cutting the cord because I didn't want him to have to see my insides whilst he did that. And again, the skin to skin, I personally preferred that to happen after I knew the baby was safe, it was delivered, and I was in the recovery room. So with both my babies that were delivered by section, I held the baby for a short time whilst as soon as it came out, and then the baby was passed to my husband, because I just want to make sure that the baby was 100% okay and breathing, and I felt it was easier for them to do that if he was holding her. And then as soon as we went into the recovery, that is when I had the chance to do skin to skin, breastfeed immediately, and it's just a lovely, calm, and totally changed my perception of birth. And I am so happy that we made that decision, and that now I'm 11 days past postpartum and I feel incredible. Obviously I took painkillers, but I haven't had really pain. I've been to the park. I've been taking it easy, but I've also been able to do more than I was the first time around, because I think it was such an emergency, more rushed situation and more stressful in general. Number 4 is prepare mentally for if you do go into labour. I've already talked about this before your planned date, if you have a planned section. Because for me, I was fortunate that it wasn't an emergency situation in many ways, because I didn't have to worry about the baby coming and trying to come out being in the wrong position. She was in the right position. But I had prepared myself mentally to ask for what I want. So as soon as I went into labour, I phoned the hospital because I had just lost my mucus plug. Usually labour starts quite quickly after that. It can take up to a couple of days, but I just knew immediately that happened, that my labour was starting and we had to get there. Number 5 is plan not to do much afterwards, because you need that time, and depending on what type of section you had, maybe you had an emergency one or maybe you had one that was planned. In an emergency one, you may not feel as good afterwards. From my experience, I did not feel good afterwards. I was very weak, I didn't have any energy, I was quite sore, and I couldn't really walk far. It's major surgery and you need to allow your body to relax and recover and feel good. So ask for help, get support, do everything you can to make sure that you can relax And number 6 is have some positive affirmations. But they're just positive statements of what you want to happen. So for me, throughout my pregnancy, my positive affirmations were, I trust in the universe and my body to nourish, grow and deliver a healthy, thriving baby, alive in every way. That was my positive affirmation just whenever I felt anxiety. And for my birth, I was saying, my body has done this before and it is doing it again now. I was talking to myself whilst I was having my contractions, saying my mind is strong, my body can do this. Come up with some nice positive affirmations for whatever delivery you're planning to have. Number 7 is talk to the staff. I found that really helped. They're very chatty and they're so nice, and the anaesthetists are always amazing. But as you go in, just start chatting about stuff, and I think it just creates a more relaxed atmosphere, and if they know that you're relaxed, then they're more relaxed, and they're just normal people doing an amazing job, basically. Number 8 is it doesn't hurt. Don't worry, you get a spinal block, you don't have to worry about pain. There might be a little bit at the back of your mind saying like, I'm going to be awake in surgery. It really is not. There's nothing you can feel. You feel like warm tingliness in your legs, kind of from your waist down. I honestly said it feels like you're in a spa or something. That sounds ridiculous, but I said that. I think I felt less the second time round, because the first time I had an epidural and the second time it was the spinal block. Obviously when you get that injection you feel a tiny scratch, I don't know, but it's nothing compared to contractions. If you've experienced contractions, getting a needle in your spine for a spinal block is nothing at all. I don't even remember any pain whatsoever with that. You don't have to see anything. There is a screen, you can ask for the screen to be taken down. I did not want to see this, like my stomach being cut open. I'd say I'm a little bit squeamish, and I knew my husband wouldn't want to see that either, so we wanted the screen up both times. The thought of someone doing that and cutting you open is obviously a million times worse than what actually happens. You really don't feel a thing. Maybe a little bit of pulling and tugging, but I would say the second time, when it was the planned section, I felt a lot less. Number 9 is it does take longer than you think, so prepare mentally for the fact you might be waiting for about 20 minutes for your baby to actually be taken out. You might assume that it's just a quick cut, that's it, they lift the baby out and the baby's born. That is not it. And even I'd forgotten from first time round, it does take about 20 minutes because they're very cautious and careful, and they're obviously cutting the layers of your skin and doing it in a very precise way, so it can take about 20 minutes for your baby to actually be lifted out of you. You might be thinking, oh, is there something wrong? What's happening? It's taking ages, but just ask if you're not sure, because there's someone there to reassure you. And I did ask, and they said it's very normal, it can take about 20 minutes. So baby came out, and baby will cry, or maybe baby will need a little bit of suction before they cry, because also there can be a bit of fluid in there because they haven't come down the birth canal. So don't panic, because the staff there will be absolutely on the ball, there to keep you right and keep your baby safe. And number 10 is just relax, which sounds crazy, but I have never been more relaxed than when they wheeled me into that operating theatre and sat me on the table. And there was a slight delay because there was potentially going to be another emergency that came in before me, but there wasn't. So the most relaxed I felt was when he actually lifted up the needle and put it into my spine and said, you will only feel 2 more contractions. And that was just a very relaxing moment for me. So I think it's all in your mind, very much in your mind, whether you can go into that situation and have a positive birthing experience. Never allow anyone else to make you feel less of a mother or less of a birthing guru because you've had a caesarean section. If that is what you have to have, if that is your decision, then be proud and be confident that that is the best thing for you. And I can honestly say that I am 100% glad that I decided to have that planned caesarean section second time round, that I've changed my whole perception of birth and had a very positive experience. So I hope that's helpful. I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like there's just not enough people being made to feel confident and powerful and having a sense of achievement regardless of the type of birth they have. You are amazing. you know, however you birth your baby. So yeah, I hope these videos are helpful, and good luck for anyone that is expecting, and just be confident and be proud whatever happens. So have a lovely week everyone, and I will see you at the start of next week.